My name is Scott Davis. I'm the founder and executive director of Medium Photo. We're based in San Diego, California, which is the ancestral home of the Kumeyaay people. The Kumeyaay people have lived on this land for thousands of years, and they continue to occupy this space today. And I'm grateful to them for sharing their land and their ancestral home with us here at Medium Photo. I'm joined today by Kateryna Radchenko, who's the founder and executive director of Odesa Photo Days, which is based in Odesa, Ukraine. We're also joined by photographer Yana Sidash, who is joining us from Lviv in Western Ukraine. Yana is a photojournalist who has a background in both documentary and street photography, and she has been traveling throughout Ukraine on assignment throughout the duration of the war over the last 3 months and certainly the last 8 years of war that has been going on. And finally, we have Maksim Finogeev from Odesa. Maksim is based in the southern port city of Odesa, Ukraine, and has been working there again throughout the conflict over the last 3 months. Maksim's background is in fashion and also work with architectural interior photography, and he has a practice in fine art both with photography and practices outside of photography. Today, Maksim has been working as a fixer for Magnum photographers who are working in Ukraine. I'm going to go ahead and turn the stage over to Kateryna Radchenko in Western Ukraine to let her begin and to share some background about the Odesa Photo Days. Katya, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you a lot for the invitation and for the organizing this event. And actually, for me, it's super pleasant because we know each other quite long time, and it's actually I could say that kind of my professional career starts exactly from my fellowship in San Diego during my stay in the Museum of Photography Art, and it was kind of a crucial experience for me, which actually showed me direction for my life. But today I would like to share my experience of the running the festival, the photo festival in Ukraine, which actually been established in the 2015 when the war starts. The war starts in Ukraine in 2014, but then we established 1 year later the photo festival, which calls Odesa Photo Days. And the thing is that this festival is only one festival in Ukraine, and it's based in Odesa in the south of Ukraine. And actually, shortly and briefly about the festival, the idea became when the war starts, because during this time, in Ukraine, in the media was a lot of media manipulations, and of course photography and visual images is the easiest way of manipulate by the information and to give completely different direction of understanding the news and truth. So by that time in Ukraine, we didn't have any festivals, but also it's kind of complicated to have the education in photography, the contemporary education, the education which has connection to the real, the developing of photography. So, and we decided, okay, then it's time to establish the platform, education platform for the photographers, first of all, but also for the audience in general, to teach them how to work with the photography, how to read the image, and how to understand the image. So actually, 7 years our festival exists in Odesa, and we tried to bring different artists, for example, here's Alex Sot, and we try to bring the different experience and different knowledge to Ukraine. And we did the exhibitions, we did the portfolio reviews, we did the lectures, workshops, but also important that between the festivals, because festival was every year, each spring, but between the edition of the festivals, we also continue to work and to spread the information to Ukraine. We continue to do the exhibitions, but also we tried to show Ukrainian artists abroad. So by this 7 years, years, we managed like to work with more than 36 countries, because like our goal was to bring the knowledge to Ukraine, but like from the different sides, to bring from Asia, to bring from America, to bring from the Latin America, from Europe and from Africa. We wanted connected people from the different countries. We wanted like to bring all this knowledge to Ukraine, and actually like to give these possibilities like for the Ukrainian artists, like to get this knowledge, to get the contacts and to develop their skills. And this was our work during the 7 years. And this year, of course, like we also planned to organize a festival, and we had to do it like in May, more or less like these days. But 24th of February completely changed the story and the history. And the 24th of February, the full-scale war began in Ukraine. And here you can see the photo of actually Maksim Finogeev, who will also represent his works today. And here's a beach in Odesa, and this is the sign which says that this is like not dangerous to be on the beach because it could be mines there. And this is like our new reality. Like it's completely changed daily life. We are living between the air signals. We are living between the fire every day to be bombed. We are living about like thinking about our families, about our friends, how they are, about the cities which are in the occupation right now. And of course, like this is completely different story and completely different way of work. So from this day, 24th February, actually, I had to move from my city to west part of Ukraine. Now I'm in the Carpathian Mountains in Ukraine. And actually there was a question, okay, what should we do as a festival? We had to cancel, of course, our like 8th edition, but what we started to do, we decided we have to help to Ukrainian artists who is working right now on the front line and who is trying to coverage and to make these photo stories about the real life in Ukraine. We started to collect the photos from the artists who is working in completely different cities of Ukraine. And we try to help them to spread this news abroad to the different countries. So like we collected these materials, we spread these photos to the international medias, we did the exhibitions, and we are doing this as well right now. And also like from one side, we would like to show this story which is going on right now here every day change our life. But from another side, for us it's super important to support Ukrainian artists by these sharings, because like this way what we are doing, like kind of agency I could say, but like we are just not taking the % of this work, but like we are trying like to collect also like the fees for the artists and to support them financially. But also like it's important like that we are showing the stories. Like for example, this is the publication which we made together with like Slovak media or in Athens, or for example the British Journal of Photography. I wrote the article about the Ukrainian photographers who is like actually covering the war right now. But the thing is like that now, of course, like a lot of Ukrainian photographers covering the war and this terrible situation. But the things that like they never had this experience before. For example, if international artists arrive to Ukraine, first of all, they're arriving with some kind of experience, but also this is kind of work. They're arriving for the 1 month or few weeks, but then they're able to be back home to the safe place and to stay in the safe place and to have rest. And this is completely different story with Ukrainian artists. Like they're not able to go home. They're not able, like, I mean, like they're not able to have this, to cover these events from the 24th of February. And today it's exactly we have families and we have to care about the families, and we have to care from another side. This is like the like also the things that like we have to care about like daily life. So I would like shortly like to say about few artists who is like actually switch from the artists art or reportage or whatever to the war photographers, war journalists, and they never had this experience before. Like the first artist is Pavel Dorogoy. He's based in Kharkiv, and before he actually did the wedding photography. But also his focus is he's interesting of the architecture, and he's also used to work as a filmmaker. And for example, this is his last series of work which he did and which based on the archive photos of Shetinin Boris, the amateur photographer from Kharkiv. So he combined the different photos and tried to show how Kharkiv developed in the 60s and 90s. And this piece of work we showed during our festival last year, his focus actually is like to shoot the evidence how the architecture is destroyed in Kharkiv. So he is like still working with this topic, but this is completely different angle because he has to shoot how his own city destroyed completely, right? Not completely, but like some areas and some buildings is completely destroyed. Another artist, Alina Smutko, originally she's from Poltava, but she's based in Kyiv. And actually, she is photojournalist, and her focus the last years is the Crimean Tatars. She traveled to Crimea after the occupation by Russia, and he tried to kept and like to shoot the stories how the local native people living there, the Crimean Tatars. She tried like to show the real situation of their lives and their like daily life, but also like from the 2090s, she is like forbid by the Russian authorities to travel to Crimea. But now she has to work with war. And for example, here's the photos from Irpin. And this is as well like the destroying bridge in Irpin. And also like the problem that like she's working every day by the different cities and traveling, like trying to cover this the war, and on the weekends back to her small son. And another artist, Vladimir Petrov, he is also based in Kyiv, and actually he's a street photographer. He also used to work as a photojournalist, but his focus is exactly like to make the photos of the street. Like he is focusing on the people, on their emotions, on their lives. He's trying to show these positive moments and different moments from the daily life. Now he is also continuing and on this, he is continuing to work and focusing on the people, but now it's completely different stories. This is the stories of people who lost their houses, who had to move from their country, who were killed, who were like brutally lost everything what they had. So this is like the just few examples, and important that like most of our Ukrainian photographers switch from the daily photographers, wedding photographers, art photographers to the war photographers. And there it wasn't their choice. It was just reflection and reaction on the current situation in Ukraine. And actually, this is like my super short presentation because I would like to leave the space for the two Ukrainian artists who will tell more and from their experience how their life changed and how their practices change. But if you'll have questions later, I'll gladly to answer on all of them. Thank you.
And Katya, would you like to answer or take questions now or wait till the end about your presentation?
It's up to you.
Okay. Why don't we start by asking for questions to be placed in the chat. I should have mentioned that earlier, and we'll go ahead and move forward. I'd like to introduce or have Yana begin her presentation with us, and we can circle back and answer questions then. And please place questions in the chat too about Yana's presentation or work, and the same when we move on to Maksim. Welcome, Yana. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Scott and Katya, for inviting me to this live event. And thank you, everybody, for coming and for your time. We really appreciate that, since now it is really important. So I will tell you a few words about myself before full-scale war began. Let me share my screen. Can you see?
Yes.
Great. Okay, my name is Yana. I'm 27 years old. I'm from Lviv, Ukraine. I started with the street photography 3 years ago. It was February 2019, and since then, I cannot imagine my life without photography. So now it is like the focus of my ongoing life and experience. So I will show you a few pictures which I have done during my first year of shooting. So it was almost all the time street photography, since I like the idea of an honest, not staged photography, which shows the reality as it is, without which shows and depicts the reality and saves the spirit of time for the future. That is why it was something that I enjoyed to do. I still like shooting in this genre. However, a lot of stuff has been changed. So now I will tell you a few words about my second project, which was called Cafe. It is about the small and very old, like 25 years old cafe, which is located next to the railway station. And for me, it was like interesting to reveal another environment which I have never experienced before. So I took portraits and everyday life of people who were visiting this cafe, and talking to them, listening to their stories. So basically I was living their lives, and that was a brand new experience for me, since this is the words which I used to not to ignore, however I didn't see yet. And in this way photography helped me to see the details, to focus my attention to different ways, to different formats, I would say. And one more project which I would like to notice is the one which I have just finished, which I started this year in the September or October, doesn't matter. And basically this is about my remote relative who has very difficult life experience, since she has married to mentally unstable man. And I didn't communicate with them a lot. So for me, I wanted to understand why she chose such way of living, why she's still with this guy, why she's she's very smart, very kind, and very good person. However, she chose this way of her life. So I lived with them for some time. And basically what I liked the most in this project, that I had so many questions, and basically photography helped me to find the answers why she's living in this way. Basically this project hasn't been published anywhere, and this is first time I'm showing this to you, because the full-scale war began and everything has dramatically changed. And now I feel that all these my past projects are not important at all. They have nothing to do right now, because the only thing which is important nowadays is this war, this period. And I believe that's of utmost importance to do something what we can do in order to help our country, yes, to help our people to fight and to win this war, since I believe that this is something that will dramatically change our lives, our future, and our history. That is why I cannot do anything else than shooting in this time, and shooting for all the people to see, to reveal the reality, to see what is going on, and to feel what we feel when we are here. I started to shoot in first days of full-scale invasion. It was my main focus was of the time refugees and this theme. So I started to shoot in railway stations, in the borders with Poland. It was few checkpoints, Rawaruska and Krakovec. And basically this was, for me, this was the most first time I felt like such hard emotions that I didn't want to shoot. I wanted just to put away my camera, to go to these people, to hug them. I don't know, to talk to them, but I had to ignore my emotions, and I had to do that since I had to take these pictures in order to show them. That was really tough time for me because that was tough time for these people, especially. Yes, they were like losing their conscience. Some of these people were waiting for more than 10 hours, and it was winter at that time, and that was so cold, and I cannot imagine how they were like doing this. And the most important is that mostly not all these people knew where they are going. Yes, some of them were just going because they just were looking for a safe place. And I have asked a lot of people, where are you going? Do you have like any relatives, any friends, whatever? Of course, some of them had, but some of them didn't, and they said that we do not know. We are just going because like we cannot stay here. Mostly, these people are from eastern part of Ukraine, which is really dangerous to be, and this is like small and like really something that happens nowadays. Then I realized that, so I was like shooting a lot of refugees, a lot of stuff what was in Lviv. However, I felt myself like I'm not doing enough and I want to do more. And so I decided to go to Kharkiv. First of all, I chose Kharkiv because this is my favorite city of Ukraine. I was there in the beginning of February, and now I just came from Kharkiv, and that was like something I didn't expect to see. Basically, of course, I saw all these pictures of destroyed buildings, of burnt cars, of death which happened there. However, I didn't see a lot about people who stay in Kharkiv. Yes, and I wanted to talk to these people, to find these people, and to show these people how they live in spite of this dangerous war. So I was shooting like a few days ago. I just came from Kharkiv today, and I was shooting these people who were staying in metro station, like from the beginning of full-scale invasion. So basically, I focused my attention on 3 stations which are in Saltivka region, which is almost fully destroyed. So basically, these people do not have any place to go, and they are going to metro station, and this is like the best place for them to be. They live there, they sleep there. That is like really unbelievable conditions there. Yes, however, they are happy to be there. They do not want even to go anywhere because they want to feel the safety. And that is so sad that people who do not have any place to live anymore, yes, and they are staying in the metro station, but still they believe in like our victory. They hope, they are staying positive, they hope to proceed living their like regular life. Sorry. So that is why I was communicating with them a lot, and that was something that like was really difficult for me because like I'm from Lviv. Yes, I live in not that dangerous place, and seeing them was hard for me. And also what I want to say that in spite of all this envies, like all this bad stuff, cruelty, yes, all these horrible events which are going on in Kharkiv, because there are still shellings, there are still bomb attacks, and these people keeps such like kindness. They are so kind and good, and I couldn't believe that. Let's say this woman, we met her a few days ago. She is from village Shestakova, which was under occupation almost all this time. So it was recently liberated, and her home is fully destroyed, and she lives nearby in a very small, like, I don't know, place which was next to her building. And we were talking, and she was telling about her experience during this time, and suddenly she asked me, you know, I have chickens, they survived with me, and I have eggs. Would you like some eggs? I want to share with you something. And for me, that was something unbelievable, that people who has nothing want at least to share something. So my main point is that in spite of all these horrible events which are going on, uh, people are people believe in better life, people believe in our victory, and they hope for that. And this what can be more important than human life. Yes. And for me that's very important now to reveal what is going on, to highlight that we have to do at least something what we can. Okay, if someone can go at the front to fight, someone can volunteer, and like anyone can do something, and that's what we should do, because we have no rights to stay aside. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Yana. I don't see any questions in the chat, but Yana, I want to introduce the idea that you were talking about your work with Stefania, your relative, and saying that once the war started, you felt like the past projects were not important anymore. But I believe that they must be important to you, because this kind of intimacy that you shared with your relatives and with strangers as a street photographer must come to play an important role in your connecting with strangers, such as the woman in the village outside of Kharkiv who offered you eggs, etc.
Yeah, I mean nowadays all personal stuff is like living like aside, and something which is connected to war is important. Like now, of course, in the future, maybe I will perceive something, or I will, and definitely. But I mean that nowadays, what is important is this war which is happening here in Ukraine.
And your work, of course, as a photographer, you are communicating with us in the most universal language. And I think that's what I feel when I look at your photographs, is that all of the work that you did previously of making these kind of personal connections is what makes the work so meaningful and so strong for us, is that it's important for you to put those projects aside because the war is the most important story, but I really believe that what you're bringing to it is a result of the passion and the heart that you put into those projects with your family before. I also just wanted to comment that, the story about the lady who you showed us the photographs of, who had lost everything and still offered you eggs from her chickens. It's a reminder that we've all been living with a global pandemic. People in Ukraine are now living with war. And we can feel very alone at times like this. And it's so nice to be able to have these kinds of connections. We're very lucky to have the ability to have international video chats by Zoom, such as today. And the lady who offered you eggs is, to me, a really beautiful reminder of the need that we have as humans to stay connected to each other. And even seeing somebody who has lost everything still wants to bring that connection and share the humanity between two people of the same nationality in this case. It's a beautiful metaphor, and I think it's an important reminder for all of us about living good lives and sharing with others. So I don't see any questions in the chat, which is fine, but I do want to go ahead and take the time to turn the stage over to Maksim and allow him to begin a presentation and give us a little background. Before we do, I did put a note in the chat that Medium Photo is raising funds for Odesa Photo Days, and I just want to share a little bit about that. That is something that we approached Odesa Photo Days to help support, because Medium has, as Kateryna said in the beginning, the birth of Odesa Photo Days was somewhat inspired by her professional experience living and working with me in San Diego. And we as Medium have helped with a number of different speakers. I myself traveled to Odesa in 2016 to give a lecture and lead a workshop with photographers in that city, and it was an incredible experience for me. And for those who have followed me on social media, you've certainly seen me sitting in this chair talking about my feelings about the war and encouraging awareness and understanding of what's happening over there, which is, I think, one of the things that we can do as people who live outside of Ukraine. But I approached Odesa Photo Days and Kateryna in particular and said, I want to do something to help. And so the money that we raise for this will be donated. 100% of it will be transferred to Odesa Photo Days, and it will be their property to distribute to photographers who are living in occupied cities, whose lives have been upended or negatively affected by the war. And so I just want to share that transparently with all of you about the money that we are raising. So with that, I meant to say that at the beginning, so I'm saying it in the middle now, but we will go ahead and turn the stage over to Maksim Finogeev.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you, Scott, for this opportunity to share with my experience. And I will add to Yana that I understand how it's hard to speak with people who suffer from the shelling and they should evacuate it, to flee their homes, and to be neutral and to take a distance is something impossible in this process, because it's also about you. About Ukrainians, and my experience when I was a fixer with other international photographers, especially with Magnum Photo Agency, they able to be in this position, to be neutral and to take a distance. So they have some kind of privilege in this way. But it's also doesn't mean that they are not feeling what is happening, and they're also sensitive to this process, what we all feel now in Ukraine. So I will share my screen and show my small presentation, what I was doing before as a visual artist. Okay, do you see? Yes, okay, great. So I just want to remind that the war in Ukraine started, as said before Kateryna, in 2014, and 8 years there is a war in Ukraine. So in my practice, it was depicted also in several projects. I will show two, but it's more than one, more than two. I'm a professional photographer and started in 2010. So I have 12 years of experience. It's a huge way. It's a huge way for me. So mostly my practice is combination from commercial photography, fine art photography, and other stuff that connected with art. So in 2015, I graduated from photo school in Kiev, and my teacher, he's from Kharkiv. He's a representative of Kharkiv School Photography. Roman Petkovka, he is a student of Boris Mikhailov, internationally well-known photographer from Ukraine. So I was lucky to be in touch with all this community of photographers that developing Ukrainian photography also, and to make this art Ukraine more known in the world, of course. So my diploma project was connected with sea, Black Sea, because I'm from Odesa, from the south of Ukraine, and the city is very, I'd say, the main resource of this city is the sea, of course. It was established because of this geographical position. So a lot of projects I have about sea, and this one, my first, how to say, project that was made as a series about my emotion, what is really happening in Ukraine because of war. On those period, Crimea was annexed, and there was military, no, it was combat on the Donbass, but Odessa was too silent about this. There was touristic in summer. There are a lot of people in the city. Nothing can show you that there is a war in this country. But my fear, my feelings about the situation was that it not will be so long. So this situation with Russia is truly horrifying, because Odessa and south of Ukraine is truly connected historically with Russian Empire, and Russia wants to receive this territory, and I know it, and I feel it, and I have fear about this, that they will do this in any way. So this landscapes from Odessa and near the Odessa in Koblevo, for example, is 60 kilometers from Odessa, was shooting and dissolved, really dissolved in handmade manner. So it's my concern, my anxiety about future in Odessa, and now, of course, it's not a touristic season. It's closed officially, and people, citizens, was asked not to visit beaches, public beaches, and because it's still threat from the sea. So this another project, it was made in Mariupol during, it was made during the art residency in Mariupol in 2018. So I was there for 2 weeks, and the main idea of this residency was to discover one side of this identity of the city for yourself. And I was surprised that this big city with population of 400,000 people was living in 20 kilometers from the enemy. For me, it was something unbelievable, how people can live near of this, because in comparison, Odessa from the nearest front line is 150 kilometers, and I feel not safety here. So I was surprised, and I found a place where was left the elements from military barricades that you see the view on the Azovstal and the Azov Sea. And also it was here, there was found training targets, fresh training targets that was really I was really fascinated about this because it looks like some kind of abstraction, and I took it to the Odesa and I have this targets. So I make a combination from these two elements of barricades and weapons that are used in these barricades in some kind of silent spirit of war. And unfortunately, we know that now Mariupol is under control of Russians. And it's really, no, it's very hard to talk about this because a lot of people I know from this city. And so when the war started, I wouldn't say that I was ready to this. I don't think that somebody was really ready to this war, except of militaries, for example. Civilians is something unbelievable, just to know that you are ready to live during the war. It's something impossible. And my main, I would say, idea that I was surprised that everything that I read in books about war, that I saw in films about war, that I heard about the war, is nothing, is not able to describe what is really a war. And all these photos that show Kateryna, Yana, and also me, it's not able to show in real, deeply enough to show what is really war, how it's look like, and how to be inside of this process in different stage, because I'm mostly in peaceful place, and I was really stressed about this this invasion, wide-scale invasion, and I tried on the second week of this history to try to make photos, just to return to some. To return to reality, to make some process that is usual for me, to make photos. I was not expecting to do some masterpieces or great photos, just to fix everything that I'm able to do. But it also was dangerous to make because people around see, if they saw camera, it was for them very suspicious, and they also can see in you some kind of saboteur or enemy, that you are doing something wrong with camera. You can help enemy to target any infrastructure object. So I also try to be careful with camera, and I can't go anywhere and to make a photo everything that I want. I also need to think, should I make photo here or not? It's also about some challenging process, because I'm not a journalist or reporter. I don't have accreditation to make photos during this period, even after some assignments with media. So also I was surprised that this topic that I'm exploring during all my career as a fine artist in the seaside shore, that one famous beach club was preparing for opening the season in the summer, and you see this person who is doing some preparation, and it was looks like really crazy that somebody is considered that everything will be calm and okay, but now I don't know how they will operate with business on this period, but they're still going to open, how I saw recently. But nevertheless, also it was hard to see how a lot of people from my city, my friends, was evacuating. They tried to find more safety place, somebody abroad, somebody in Ukraine. And this is my friend in her studio the last day before her evacuation. And I also was thinking about, will I go to Western Ukraine, for example, but I decided to stay in Odessa, and I think it's a good decision for me. It's in some way comfortable to be here. It's my home. It's my native land. I know a lot of people who stay here, and it's some kind of support of this. So it's my portrait on the second week of this war, and it's some kind of stage, really. But all the time you're scrolling this news, social media, to understand, is it really risky to stay in the city, or you can be here in safety. So my fixer debut was accidentally. I was not ready to be a fixer, but because of my walking around the city, I know what is really happening around, and I was I knew really was what was in the city, and it was complicated to show in the peaceful city what is how war looked like. Of course, it was challenging, but I hope it it helps my photographers. But also, it was a problematic to do my personal photos. I was not able to do these photos because I have another work. But I was lucky to make, for example, this photo and this one. And work with such great photographers as from Magnum agency is something about this. They shoot in short period to show something very cruel and unbelievable. And of course, they have some cliche in way how they will show the war. And in some case, for me, it's not really all that they can show, but I understand that it's their work to do in this way, how they used to do this. So I also continue to document my idea about how seashore transform under these events that is happening in Odessa. And I'm doing a long-term project. And this photo that showed Kateryna before is really, for me, I would say, some kind of confidential about when there was making project 7 years ago, 5 years ago. It was some kind of fear that it will happen, and unfortunately it becomes true. But I hope that we will defeat. No, sorry, we will defend our territory and to receive victory on our enemy. And also accidentally, I have a New York Magazine publication about evacuation. No, so I make portraits of people in Odessa and who evacuated from Kherson because it was made by American volunteer, old woman that's 55 years old, and she came from America to Ukraine to save people, to help them. And it was incredible that people from another continent come to Ukraine to help Ukrainians in different way, not only in military, also in humanitarian. And my personal way to understand what is happening with community, LGBTQ community, where I belong to. I go to Lviv, and I went to Lviv, and because there is LGBT shelter for people from occupied territories. And it's really hard to speak with them and to make portraits just because I understand that also I can be on their place. So I continue to make photos of these people in Odesa because they come also people from, for example, from Kherson coming here, and something that I understand I should to do this, to make these portraits, to document these stories, because it's not a popular one in media, and but it's spotted for me. So documenting their stories, I'm documenting also my story. So this is the end of my presentation. Hope I was my language was you understand what I'm talking about, because I'm not so good in English, but I tried to do all my best. So if you have questions or any comments now or before, you can contact with me in the way how you comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maxim. So I'd like to invite anybody who has questions, or if you just want to join us in community through your video and or sound, to please do so. You know, seeing this work of yours, Maxim, is really very powerful. And I have some questions that I would like to just begin a conversation with you and everybody else regarding this. And one of them was about your very first project, the Black Seas Solution. I was curious what kind of prints you were making, because it looked like you were taking the salt water from the sea itself and putting it into select areas on those prints. Is that correct? Were they digital prints? I'm curious.
No, it's some magic.
Okay, magic's good too.
It's some kind of magic. Yeah, it's experimentation. Nothing at all. Just try to express feelings, because don't try to be very intellectual, mostly about emotions and feelings, how to show it in this way that for me is more great.
If there are any other questions, you can use the raise your hand feature, the button to raise your hand in case your video is not on. I have many questions. I could ask questions all day, but Rachel will go ahead and take your question.
Hi, Katya and Yana and Maxim. It's so great to see you. Katya, we've been emailing a little bit the last few weeks in preparation, and it's incredibly, it's so emotional for me. Thank you so much for taking the time, and Maxim, your English is amazing. Please don't apologize for it. Each of you well, I can't articulate, but maybe tears says enough. There's such an impact in hearing more deeply from individual people, even though I've been following the news closely and reading in the media about the war for 3 months, hearing stories from artists and curators who are there, and in this kind of format where it's not mediated through a big media platform and packaged in that way. As you said, Maxime, there's sort of a style to the way in which a war is covered. And so seeing your personal work for each of you, Yana and Maxime, seeing the work that you were making in the country before the war, and then hearing your impact, the impact of how the war has changed your life and your work, and how you're using your backgrounds as artists to cover and process and sort of emotionally reconcile what is happening is extraordinary. And I just feel such a privilege to have been able to have been here today to hear that from you. It's truly our honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Katya. And also, it's just so surreal, the dissonance between the war and the artillery and bridges being blown up. But then the fact is, Scott said that, you know, with a Zoom video link, the fact that we're able to be here with you live on Zoom from literally halfway around the world, and this incredible positive use of technology. It's really incredible. So thank you so much. I know, Katya, that the logistics of pulling together an event like this from a country that is at war are challenging, and I really appreciate the effort. Thanks. I'm gonna mute and then sniffle and dry my tears off mic.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Scott.
It looks like Linda has a question. So you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I just want to say thank you so much again too. And I've just been following all this so closely, I guess, especially because my grandparents emigrated from Ukraine, and my next trip was going to be Ukraine. And the people, you know, watching the 2014 film, and the spirit of the Ukrainians is just, it's unbelievable. How, like you said, the kindness is still there, and their outlook of fighting for freedom that we Americans take so much for granted. It's such an inspiration. And anyway, I just thank you for seeing another aspect with you being here, and I wish you all the best as you continue. And how many do you think photographers are there working in Ukraine, Ukrainian photographers right now?
It's difficult to say by numbers, but like it's definitely like more than a few hundreds. But
Yeah.
like also like it's depend, because like a lot of photographers volunteering, and then there's like not so many who's working for the international medias or for the segments. So for the segments, I think it's like more or less about like 100, something like about this. But there's a lot of who is volunteering.
And I don't know if I quite heard you right. What about the international people that are in photographers? What's the comparison of the Ukrainians taking photographs and people from all over the world there?
Well, I can say like from my perspective, because like I'm working right now with 24 Ukrainian artists, and what I can see that like the stories which Ukrainians making is different compared with international media. Like 1 month ago, we had 2,000 accreditation for the international media. But it was both video and photographers. I don't know the statistic right now, but the difference is that like Ukrainians, from one side, it's more complicated, how Maksim and Yana mentioned, because like it's really difficult to take a distance emotionally, because like we are also part of the story. But from another side, it's easier because like we know the context and we know the language. So like it's different access, but also it's a covering of the hometown, it's a covering of your own land, and it's a covering your own situation. So like the photos, there's like not just like strict documentary, like I think the like Ukrainian artists, they're like putting more emotions on them, and like in these emotions you can feel through the visual materials.
Yeah, that makes. May I ask another question too, just about the whole, you know, I know there's a lot, I don't know that much, but of brother and sister relationships between Ukrainians and Russians. And does that have, it seems to be having a great effect on relationships with families, some living in Russia, some living in Ukraine, and not kind of believing, that this is really happening. Is there a lot of that in families and relationships?
All the relationship stops 24th of February. We don't have any relationship with Russia anymore.
No, but I meant
Even if
personal. I mean, like a mother.
personally
son.
as well. Personally as
Oh,
well.
really?
Like I know a lot of families who kind of lost their relatives in Russia from 24. Like they tried to find a common language of communication, but it was not possible at all. Of course, we can't say about all the people. Of course, like there's people probably from the Donbas region who had to move to the Russia who did this by their own choice and who had the relatives. But majority, I could say that like now, then like who has any relatives or friendship in Russia, they stop it from 24th of February.
Yeah.
Katya, is your work today primarily involved with organizing events such as this and writing such as you did for the British Journal of Photography? Is that what you're mostly doing today? There's a question from Claudia Kunin about
I see. Yeah, thanks, Claudia, and hi, Claudia. Well, yes, my last project, which I did as a photographer, it was made 2 years ago. And like I used to work as a photographer before the war, but now I just can't manage photography and organization. So like I could say that as well as all of us, our life and normal life, we put somewhere by our side. So like now I have decided that I will work only for the organization and curating and helping, supporting the other photographers.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you, all three of you, for taking the time to talk to us. And I know the point keeps coming up about this work not being emotionally detached, and it's like, it's impossible. And I think that's absolutely the strength of what you're doing, because what we see, the media is inundated with professional conflict photographers' work. And I don't think we need more of that. That's certainly important, but what you're doing now is going to be the document that really matters for history, So thank you.
Thank you for your support.
It feels like we feel so impotent here.
Yeah.
It's awful what you're living through.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask Maksim and Yana if they're, I don't know, I want to ask this question with sensitivity because I'm sure it's very difficult to think about what you might consider normal life. But I'm wondering if there's projects that you are looking forward to returning to when Ukraine wins the war.
Okay, I have one more project which I began recently before the full-scale invasion began. It was about like self-portraits and landscapes, something I have never done before, and that was about my injury a few years ago. I got into a car accident, and I was very injured, and like the doctors didn't promise that I will survive at all. And that was kind of story which was holding me all this time. And finally, in autumn, I started doing this project, and that was something very important to me. And I wanted to also to end in the end of the winter and made like exhibition or book or whatever, something like first time. And again, full-scale war began, and I'm not thinking about that nowadays, but that's something that really matters to me so much, because this was the experience which I tried to live once again through photography, and which helped me to overcome and to live this and to understand and to accept. So that was something that really happened to me so much. And unfortunately, I cannot do anything with this project right now, because again, as I told, I feel like all we can do is projects or photos about war nowadays. But of course, in future, I would love to finish this to structure. Yeah.
Thank you.
For me, it's challenging because everything is confidential, and I don't have any plans. Maybe I'd like to do something simple and beautiful without any additional sense, just for relax and without problem in this way. Something maybe about fashion, like in this way. I don't have plan. I don't try to plan because it's can be frustrating if you are not able to do this all like this.
Well, Maxime, I wanted to also offer thanks to you for sharing the work of the LGBTQ community in Ukraine. It's really, as has been already mentioned by another guest, this is a vitally important story. And as you yourself said, it's one that's not being covered. And I think it's really great that you are able to make connections or maintain connections with your community, and to use photography as a vehicle to document the present, and document a side of the present moment that is not being seen. And I'm sure there may be other photographers in the community who are making photographs of LGBTQ individuals also, but I just want to encourage you to find that space and maintain that space in your practice, because it is an important document, and the more photographs you make of it, of course, the better chance we will have as people who live outside of Ukraine to learn more about that community. I find that's one of the wonderful aspects of photography as a medium itself, is that it can transport us to places that we may not know about. And so I just wanted to thank you, and to thank Yana as well for your work and your ongoing work. I want to go ahead and wrap up the conversation today. I do want to offer, if anybody has any final questions, we could make time for one more, either in the chat, or if somebody wants to go ahead and speak up. But I do want to just take a moment to thank Yana, Kateryna, and Maxim for your time and your heart and your stories. It means so much to us, and I'm so grateful.
Thank you so much.
I would also like to thank for the organization of this event, because honestly, we are working here, but it's so important for us to know that there's support, but also it's important for us to share our stories. And so I would like to thank you that I know that in California now is morning, so it's I think it's kind of brave to listen all the stories from the beginning of the day. But yeah, thank you a lot first of all for the organization of this event, but also for your attention and for the support.